Okay, peace be with you, and I welcome you all with love. Obviously, the COVID-19 is on a lot of people's minds, and maybe it's time to put it in our hearts as well. So what I want us to understand is, how do we move and come at peace with, how do we live with this? The research is suggesting there are even second waves or third waves. And the truth is, it doesn't matter, because what I've been talking about is not being in fear, but being in consciousness. That's the key, right? So we have covered in many ways, and you can find it in my newsletter again, the protective protocol nutritionally. I emphasize zinc a lot more this time, because it seems that zinc is the simple one by far that basically blocks viral replication, and it prevents the viruses from getting into the mitochondria and reproducing with their RNA, and also through the cell wall. Okay, but that's really not what this is about. I mean, we're missing the whole point. This is an opportunity. Whatever the universe brings to us, how do we make it into an opportunity for spiritual growth, for waking up, for improving our lives at every level? That's really the key. Okay? So we want to go beyond just I use the word terrain, building our physical immunity, to now, how do we live in a way? How do we use this as a reset to upgrade the totality of our life? And in essence, to upgrade the totality of consciousness on the planet. So that's a pretty big topic. But it's a topic we need to engage in. And that can go, at the basics. Why does the U.S. have 12 bioweapon laboratories? Why is that even being allowed? It's internationally illegal. We know that. I mean, that's been passed. It's a law. UN's against it. Yes, UN is also supporting the Wuhan biological weapons lab. So, but theoretically they did pass that was bioweapon laboratories are not legal. That being said, we kind of have to move into more of a expanded and elevated global consciousness. Now, we can talk about the global consciousness, but we actually have to talk about our consciousness first. So then that takes us really is, how do we begin to upgrade our life? How do we begin to create a quieter mind? How do we begin to create a quieter body? How do we begin to be more conscious in all that we're doing? So that's really the challenge. Okay? So we as I said, we've covered the physical, and I can just say, okay, plant-based, vegan diet 100%, 80% live food, optimum diet. We can talk about building your lung capacity with pranayama, breathing exercises, which I do every day for years and years and years, nothing to do with this. We can talk about service and charity, which is a little bit where I want us to think about. How do we upgrade the global consciousness? It's participating in service and charity. Because contrary to being in lockdown, where we're separate, service and charity brings our hearts together, brings us into oneness. That's a really beautiful thing. And so that's a way of beginning the transformation. And it's great for me. I read about people bringing the elderly people food, and that's a wonderful thing. And outside of the crisis, because in crisis actually Americans do really well on helping each other, is to move now into going in service and charity in a much bigger way. Now, what I do want to say and it's statistically true, Americans are considered the most generous people on the planet. Just as a little side note, that's the statistical reality. It's not my opinion, okay? So we want to emphasize that because that connects our hearts. That's what we're talking about. We're not going to be in heart lockdown and in fear and separation. We're moving the other direction. Let's connect our hearts, okay? A lot of it can happen with the internet to start with in the situation, but that's key. Now, part of connecting our hearts, it's good to kind of listen to people like people are obviously doing here on this Facebook. It's good to connect to spiritual teachers who can guide you through this to help you wake up. And I'm going to be honest, return to God, because that's part of the big picture. Why did the Egyptians have the plagues? Well, the truth is, most of the Hebrews had lost their connection with God too. The plagues were a gigantic wake-up call. Return to God. We've got to keep that in mind. So the plagues weren't just for the Egyptians, they were for really the Hebrews as well. And that's our wake-up call. Return to God. There's a huge message here, okay? How do we start doing that? Well, meditation, very, very powerful. Actually, meditation literally grows your brain, literally makes you younger, literally improves your whole physiology. So all that's very real there, okay? Prayer, hugely important. Prayer can affect and heal. So that's good. And then, in a sense, connecting with those closest to you. Now, here we have an opportunity because we're kind of in lockdown. Let's look at our sacred relationships. Let's look at our family life. What can we do to improve the quality of that? And what can we do also? And I call it kind of eco-spiritualism, is to begin to relate to the planet in a different way. So I'm not seeing it as an environmentalist who says, I'm helping the environment. In my life, I'm one with the living planet. There's no separation here. And so the living planet myself are one. Now, what does that mean? That means the way I treat my body is the way I want to treat the plant. The way I treat the plant is the way I want to treat my body. So it's a whole ecological waking up as well. Okay, so there's that level. And then finally, as part of the whole picture, is return to God. I already mentioned a little bit earlier, but we can't ignore that this is a huge wake-up call on every level. We turn to a higher level of eating and living and lifestyle. But there's still a bottom line, if we're looking at historical plagues, is making a choice to open up your heart, not only just to other human beings, but to the divine play in your life. Peace be with you. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Anagyasa.